Hello from Shanghai, this is Chris. Welcome to another episode of China Currents, your weekly news report of what's happening in China. On November 14th, Chinese President Xi Jinping touched down at San Francisco International Airport for a significant diplomatic visit, which includes a highly anticipated meeting with US President Joe Biden and his attendance at the 30th Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Leaders Summit. It is Xi's first trip to the United States in 6 years and Biden's second in-person meeting with Xi since assuming office in 2019. Xi's arrival was met with a warm reception. Notable figures from the US side, including Governor of California Gavin Newsom and Secretary of the Treasury Janet Yellen, extended a cordial welcome to the Chinese leader. Accompanying Xi on the trip are high-ranking Chinese officials, including the Chief of Staff Cai Qi and Foreign Minister Wang Yi. The Chinese ambassador to the United States, Xie Feng, was also present at the airport. Earlier this week, Biden expressed his objective to restore regular communications between the two countries, including military contacts, during his upcoming discussions with Xi. White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby informed reporters that Biden and Xi would discuss various topics, including the conflict in Gaza and Ukraine, economic issues, and climate change. The world will watch closely on the outcome of Xi's visit, as it has the potential to shape the trajectory of China-US relations and impact the broader geopolitical landscape. On November 15th, Chinese President Xi Jinping met with US President Biden at a Phyllis Witherell house in San Francisco. Before the formal meeting, there was a lively discussion on Chinese social media about San Francisco's effort to spruce up the city and relocate its homeless population of thousands before President Xi and other APEC leaders arrived. The US side described this as a summit meeting. Whether judged by the unique arrangement, the attention from both countries and international community, or the significance of the meeting, this was a summit of strategic importance with far-reaching impact. It was the two leaders' first face-to-face meeting in a year. President Xi stated that the fundamental question was whether China and US saw each other as partners or rivals, and whether they pursued mutually beneficial cooperation or zero-sum confrontation. He said the right choices in history must be made. Xi elaborated on China's principles regarding Taiwan, stating it was the most important and sensitive issue in China-US relations. China appreciated the US reaffirming its One China policy in Bali. The US should reflect in concrete actions by ceasing arms sales and military support for Taiwan and supporting peaceful reunification. China will and must achieve reunification, Xi stated. The leaders agreed to promote and strengthen dialogue and cooperation in various areas, including establishing an artificial intelligence dialogue, anti-drug cooperation, resuming military-to-military talks, increasing flights, and expanding education, culture, and business exchanges. They also stressed the importance of urgent climate action in this decisive decade and welcomed recent discussion between the climate envoys. On the same day, China and the United States have jointly issued a Sundance statement reaffirming their commitment to collaborate and tackle the climate crisis. The statement was released following discussions between China's climate envoy Xie Zhenhua and his US counterpart John Kerry held earlier this year. The two governments outlined the areas focused for their collaboration, which include energy transition, methane reduction, circular economy, and resource efficiency. The statement emphasized that the purpose of the collaboration is to accelerate concrete climate actions through dialogue and cooperation. As part of the efforts, they will restart bilateral dialogues on energy policies and strategies while deepening exchanges on energy saving and carbon reduction solutions. Furthermore, the joint statement reaffirmed their commitment to the goals of the Paris Agreement, which aim to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius and strive to restrict the increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius. The release of the statement marks a significant milestone in the ongoing efforts to combat climate change. China and the United States, as two of the world's largest emitters of greenhouse gases, have recognized the urgency of the climate crisis and the need for international cooperation to address its impacts. The declaration sends a positive signal to the global community, demonstrating that even amidst geopolitical tensions, countries can come together and tackle shared challenges. Next up, UNESCO. On November 10th, the 42nd session of the UNESCO General Conference passed a resolution to establish an Institute for International STEM Education in Shanghai, China. Institute for International STEM Education is a crucial component of UNESCO, aiming to promote inclusive, equitable, relevant and quality education in STEM fields from early childhood to adulthood. This marks the first time that UNESCO Category 1 Center is established in China. The Institute for International STEM Education is the 10th Category 1 center established by UNESCO and the first of its kind outside Europe and US. During the deliberations of the UNESCO General Conference's Education Committee, member countries expressed gratitude to China for proposing the establishment of a Category 1 center in Shanghai, viewing it as strong support for UNESCO. Countries commended the work of UNESCO and expressed support for the resolution on establishing the center in Shanghai. Xi Jinping, the head of the Chinese delegation and Minister of Education, stated that China would earnestly fulfill its commitment, fully cooperate with UNESCO to implement the resolution of this General Conference, supporting the Secretariat in preparation work for the Institute and promote early completion and operation of this Institute. Next up, let's take a look at the marriage rate in China. According to the data from the Ministry of Civil Affairs, a total of 5.7 million couples registered their marriages nationwide in the first 3 quarters of this year, while 1.9 million couples registered for divorce. For comparison, in the first 3 quarters of 2022, 5.4 million couples registered their marriages and 1.6 million couples registered for divorce. Thus, the number of marriage registrations in the first 3 quarters of this year increased by 245,000 compared to the same period last year, and the number of divorce registrations increased by 330,000. In the first half of this year, the number of people getting married in China has rebounded. The Ministry of Civil Affairs data showed that the number of marriages registration nationwide in the first half of this year was 3.9 million couples, an increase of 196,000 compared to 3.7 million couples in the first half of last year. Next up, economy. On November 11th, China's largest online shopping festival, Double 11, came to a close. The gross merchandise volume of e-commerce reached 1.1 trillion yuan, representing year-on-year growth of 2.1%. Among them, the sales volume of comprehensive e-commerce was 277 billion yuan, with Tmall accounting for 60% of the total sales, ranking first, and JD.com and Pinduoduo took up the second and third places respectively with 27.9% and 7.3% of the sales. In this year's shopping festival, major e-commerce platforms collectively focused on promoting low prices in order to attract more customers. In the current economic slowdown, Chinese consumers become increasingly cautious, and their pursuit of consumer value has become stronger than ever. Attracting consumers and providing a better shopping experience have become crucial challenges for businesses and platforms to address. Next up on technology, on November 14th, Chinese electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft developer Autoflight has announced a significant collaboration with Falcon Aviation Services during the Dubai Air Show, with plans to jointly introduce the first eVTOL touristic, cargo and air taxi flights in the Middle East and Africa. Autoflight is one of the most advanced eVTOL developers in China, which set a record for the longest single-charge flight by an eVTOL craft in February this year after it traveled 250.3 kilometers. On the other hand, Falcon Aviation Services is a leading business aviation services operator in the Middle East and Africa, and a key player in the UAE government's advanced air mobility strategy. eVTOL aircraft, which boast energy efficiency comparable to electric cars and require no fixed facilities such as airports or runways, offers quieter and more cost-effective transportation options than helicopters, making them well-suited for intracity or inner-city travel. As Middle Eastern countries strengthen their economic ties with China, Chinese aircraft producers are increasing their market share in the region. Earlier this year, Autoflight secured a purchase contract with logistics services providers in the Middle East, including 10 cargo eVTOLs that will operate in the UAE and Saudi Arabia. From China to the world, a column written for Autoflight Strategic Planning highlights the electric aircraft producer's ambition in transportation services. Last but not least, China's Beidou navigation satellite system has been recognized by the International Civil Aviation Organization as meeting the required standards. The Civil Aviation Administration of China confirmed this progress on November 16th. Beidou's technical standards were updated to ICAO's existing standard documents of the Convention on International Civil Aviation for the latest revision, making Beidou a universally accepted navigation system for global civil aviation. China's aviation agency submitted its application to include Beidou into ICAO standards over a decade ago in 2010. The system was tested by ICAO to verify its capability for global aviation navigation and its compatibility with other global satellite navigation systems. By June 2020, the third-generation Beidou 3 system completed its constellation deployment after the final satellite was launched and has been serving over 200 countries and regions since then. Beidou is one of the 4 global satellite navigation systems recognized by the United Nations, alongside with US's GPS, Russia's GLONASS, and EU's Galileo. Similar to other global satellite systems, Beidou has developed 2 levels of positioning services: open service for civil navigation and restricted service for military use. Currently, the military service of Beidou has been granted exclusively to the Chinese People's Liberation Army and the Pakistan Armed Forces. And that's all for today. Thank you for watching this episode of China Currents. If you have any thoughts and comments about our show, please reach us at email address below. I'm Chris, looking forward to hearing from you and see you next time.